This is the new Chery Tiggo 4 Hybrid, and I know what you're probably thinking, that's not a very good vehicle. And to be honest, you'd be right. But this is quite cheap. These start from 30,000 drive away. This example is the top spec, 35,000 drive away, which is among the lowest price for a hybrid SUV in this category. Being so cheap, there are some sacrifices. For example, this comes with a brand of tyre I've never heard of, Saloon E-Range Performance. They're measuring 215/60 front and rear. And if we have a look under the rear end, you'll see one of the most comprehensive suspension systems on the market today. Look at that little bracket holding the spring there. It just looks very, very flimsy. There are some other areas that show evidence of corner cutting, I guess. Like this has got a lot of safety systems, including a driver monitoring camera. But if you wear glasses while you're driving, sunglasses, it goes off all the time. Well, it does for me anyway. And it just seems like they've got the driver monitoring camera hardware, whether it's from Bosch or whatever the brand, and just slapped it on without any actual tuning or not much tuning, because it's just going off all the time when you're just focusing straight ahead, doing nothing wrong at all. Another element that probably needs some fine tuning, this center armrest, which is good for a SUV of this size to have that, but it's mounted right up against this seat, and that seat just constantly squeaks and rattles as you're driving along. Well, it does for me anyway, in that seating position. And then up on the dash, we've got this nice big touchscreen. That is impressive for this class, but it is a little bit confusing. For example, you've got this climate control panel down here, but you've also got climate controls up here. So if you want to turn the fan speed up, you use the buttons there. You've got a display down here, but you can't actually adjust the fan, for example, or the temperature. It's not actually a control, it's just a display. Why not have this as the climate control and just leave it there? You don't have a pull down tab area there for the climate. You just have this and you can just make adjustments. In terms of the good things though, this is a very spacious cabin. It's one of the biggest small SUVs in this specific category. Like my head's nowhere near the ceiling. I've got plenty of leg room, got a decent amount of storage as well. You've got a floating console with a tub underneath, cup holders, little slot for your phone to sit in, or I've just put the key in there. It's kind of like this rubber sealed area, so it holds it in without rattling about. And most of the trim is actually pretty good. It's got this kind of fake stitched leather across the dash, that's fine. Same with up here, it's all soft touch. This has got a bit of a metallic texture. Even the door trims, it all looks and presents quite nicely, and the materials feel robust and durable. But yeah, lots of squeaks and rattles, as I'll show you when we go for a drive. And then likewise in the back, this is very spacious. I've got plenty of leg room. My knees are nowhere near the seat in my seating position. Little pockets in the back there. And my head is nowhere near the ceiling. Even though this does come with the sunroof, you've got a cutaway in the ceiling for headroom. So yeah, if you're after a small SUV with maximum interior space, this is definitely up there, if not at the top. Although, as a warning, you do have just the single climate vent. So if you've got two kids, they have to alternate while they're driving along, and there's one USB port down there as well. Up at the back, you've got a decent sized boot. This is missing the security blind. I'm sure you do get that when you buy one new. You've got a split folding seat, unlike the original Tiggo 4 that came out. It was just a one-piece folding seat. You do have a little bit of extra storage under the floor, and the battery that sort of sticks up a little bit. I'm guessing that is because of the hybrid system. But yeah, you've got this big bulge that sticks up. You do have some hooks. You've got a hook on the side there and that side, but no 12-volt socket or anything like that. This is just a small, practical, cheap runabout at the end of the day. And then under the bonnet, we've got a noisy 1.5 litre petrol 4-cylinder engine supplying energy for an electric motor system that produces 150 kilowatts and 310 Newton meters. That makes it one of the most powerful small SUVs in this class. But, we'll go for a drive in a minute, I don't think this thing needs power. I think that's the last of its priorities. We'll go for a drive and I'll show you what I mean. Most of the time when you're driving along, it's running on electric power, so it is very quiet. Apart from the seat squeaking away. I'm not doing anything, by the way. That's just rubbing against that console and just squeaking every time you go over a bump. But yeah, it is relaxing and smooth for this class anyway. Most other small SUVs feature a small petrol engine that's quite noisy as well. whereas this can cruise along almost silently. The tyres do make a bit of a noise, a bit of road roar, and you'll see in the upcoming performance test, when I went past about 120 or something like that, I mean, not that you do that on the public roads anyway, but it started to give off this weird whirring sound. You'll hear it in the video. I didn't hit anything, I didn't drive over anything. That's just a normal test that I do over the same piece of tarmac in all the other vehicles. And yeah, just had this weird noise. It might have been when I had just applied the brakes at the end of the quarter mile. I mean, I don't slam the brakes, I've got plenty of runoff, but yeah, there was this weird noise. And I found that when you drive this along the highway, there is a bit of tyre roar, and I'm guessing it's because of those, you know, basically no-name tyres. Visibility is very good though. I've got a nice perched up view. I mean, I'd like to lower the seat down. It's definitely the lowest it will go. Lower it down a bit lower, but I do have an excellent view. I can see over the side mirror. There's a bit of a gap between the pillar and the mirror as well. And just, yeah, I've got a good understanding of where the vehicle is positioned on the road. Even out the back, the view is quite good. Considering this is not going for a coupe style body form, you've got that nice upright cabin orientation. In terms of fuel economy, I'm averaging 6.2 litres per 100 kilometres. That's the recent 50 kilometre distance, so I haven't done any performance testing in that 50 kilometres. That's pretty average, I would guess. That was a bit of highway driving and then just driving down here, getting some external shots, not pushing it too hard. So around 6, I guess, is a real world rating. You could probably get it lower than that. It's good, but it's not class leading. You know, like I've got a, I've said this a number of times, but I just like it as an example. Toyota RAV4 hybrid, all-wheel drive version as well. I've achieved mid-4s easily, like actual mid-4s in the real world, doing all this sort of same driving on the winding road, performance testing and all of that. So if that larger SUV can do it, this smaller, lighter package should technically offer something a little bit better, but this is cheap. So what about the handling? Well, look, this is, yeah, it doesn't offer the best handling for this class. I mean, take a Mazda CX-3 for a drive down a road like this, and you'll see that it is possible to have a nice dynamic package in this category. Like it just feels good. It's got nice steering. The suspension feels capable of holding the body. Whereas this, the steering reminds me of a you know, old arcade game where you're playing those racing games and the steering wheel is just attached to a box, you know. That's kind of like this. You don't get much understanding of what the tires are doing at the front of the vehicle. It's just, you turn this and the vehicle kind of follows. We do have 2 different drive modes to choose from.
It has entered sport mode.
It has entered sport mode. So now we're in the sportiest setting, and you get that engine fire up, making quite a racket. You've actually got to raise your voice. Sometimes when you drive along the highway, that engine will just fire up out of nowhere. Not when you're overtaking or anything. I mean, it will if you're overtaking, but it just automatically, as a part of the hybrid system, will fire up, and it suddenly, you know, it gives you a bit of a scare because as this big noise comes in, you forget that it does have a petrol engine. So it's easy to get the wheels to start spinning. The stability control, the traction control is pretty good though. Like I've driven other vehicles where it'll let away too much wheel spin before it starts to apply traction management. Whereas this, yeah, it seems to get on top of it relatively quickly. Going back down, you can feel, yeah, there's a lot of body lean happening. I mean, it's not unacceptable to have body roll, but there's just too much in this. Like it feels very flimsy as you're driving along, and it's kind of, how can I put this? You point the front and then the back follows. There's an absolute delay there that you can feel the rear end sort of catching up with the front. And that's just a result of, you know, sloppy, soft sort of suspension. I know I'm driving a bit erratically. Not everybody drives like this. But again, take a Mazda CX-3 down this road, doing the same thing, and it just feels together. It feels dynamic, feels balanced, doesn't feel like it's going to, or wants to fall over, whereas this kind of does. The tires don't help. I think they offer too much flex in the sidewall, but I think it's mainly that suspension. It's just too soft. I mean, it's comfortable. I guess that's one positive. If you're driving around the city most of the time, never encountering winding roads like this, then it's probably going to suit you just fine because it just absorbs the potholes and the road connections and all that just fine. But yeah, I would rather something that's just a bit more comprehensive if I was going to put my family in a small SUV like this. It goes really well though, as you'd expect, 150 kilowatts. Bit of wheel spin. Yeah, a bit of screeching of the tyres. Yeah, these tyres are not very good, and I get it, this is a cheap package. You can just easily upgrade the tyres, but do you really want to buy a brand new, you know, $30,000 car and have to change the tyres straight away? And also, you know, it just makes you wonder what other areas are a bit cheap. You know, all the bushes in the suspension system, you know, do they last 5,000 kilometers and then they're shot as well, and you've got to replace all those? So yeah, I'd just be a bit skeptical about the overall dynamics of this package, especially in the long run. You've got the seatbelt rattling against that B pillar there, which is fair enough. That does happen in a lot of other vehicles. But yeah, there's a lot of squeaks and rattles with the doors and the dash. In terms of the performance though, yeah, this goes very well. As you'd expect, it's got a lot of power. If acceleration is your absolute top priority, then sure, you could take a look at one of these. But yeah, it's quite noisy and a lot of vibrations and so on. You do have to sacrifice a lot in terms of the cabin refinement and build quality, and some of these the touchscreen and all that, the climate control. It's just a little bit unusual, I guess is the best word to use. All right, let's head off now and do the performance test and see what it goes like.